Hi, I'm Bonnie Barker with Bonnie Babe Crochet, and I wanted to demonstrate for you today the popcorn stitch. I'm going to be working in a sample row of single crochet, although you can use any stitch for this, and I am using a multiple of 6 plus 2. I decided on a multiple of 24 plus 2, so I'm using a swatch with 26 stitches. Now there's one very important thing that I need to explain before I start this stitch video, is that oftentimes when you're working in an established stitch pattern, let's say for example with a size I hook, or any size hook for that matter, what you usually need to do when working the popcorn in this style is you're going to need to upsize the hook one size. So I have gone from a size I or 9 or 5.50 millimeter crochet hook. That's what I used for these this base stitch rows, and I'm going up to a size J, which is just one size up, and this is a size 10 or 6.00 millimeter crochet hook. All right, so now I'm going to chain 1 at the beginning of my row, and this is row 1 for the popcorn stitch. We're going to work a single crochet in that first stitch, chain 1. We're going to skip the next stitch, and in the next stitch beside that we're going to work 4 single crochets. Okay, so I have worked 4 single crochets in the same stitch. I'm going to pull up a loop. I'm going to find that very first of the 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to insert the hook like this, and I'm going to grab the loop that was part of that 4th single crochet of this little popcorn, and I'm just going to pull it through like this. And at this point you should know a protrusion. It should pop, so to speak, and then we give it a chain. Now you want to make this a normal chain. You don't want to make it like real tight, because if you do that you're not going to be able to work in it for the following rows. So make sure that the chain is a normal chain. You also don't want it to be so loose that the stitch does not pop. So we go ahead and make that chain. We're going to skip the next stitch, and then we're going to single crochet in the next. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, and then we're going to work a popcorn in the next, which is the 4 single crochets. Pull up that loop, insert the hook into that first of the 4, and then pull it through and give it a chain. So now we're going to continue this across the row. Skip the next stitch, single crochet in the next, give it a chain, skip the next stitch, and 4 single crochets in the next stitch. Pull up that loop, insert hook into the very first of the 4 single crochets, pick up the loop from the 4th one and pull it through, give it a chain, and again make sure that it pops. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we've done so far. Okay, so let's continue on across the row. Skip the next stitch, single crochet in the next, chain 1, skip the next stitch, and 4 single crochets in the next stitch, and pull up that loop, insert into that first of the 4 stitches, grab that loop and pull it through, chain 1, skip the next stitch and single crochet, chain 1, skip the next stitch, do a popcorn, which are those 4 single crochets, insert hook, pull up that loop, give it a chain, skip the next stitch, single crochet, chain 1, skip the next stitch, work a popcorn, which are those 4 single crochets, pull up a loop, insert into the first stitch, grab that loop and pull it through, chain 1, skip the next stitch, single crochet in the next stitch. And when you get to the end of the row, just work a single crochet in that last stitch. And let's take a look at what we will get when we have 26 stitches. Okay, we're going to get 6 popcorn. Okay, so this is row number 1. Now let's go ahead and look at row number 2, which goes much faster, but it can be a little bit tricky, and you need to be careful on these because it's easy to lose stitches otherwise. We're going to single crochet in that first stitch, chain 1, skip the next stitch, and we're going to single crochet in the top of that popcorn in that chain 1 space, chain 1, and we're going to single crochet in the next chain 1 space, which is right here, which came before the popcorn of the other row, chain 1, and skip the next stitch, single crochet in the top of the next popcorn. So we're basically chain 1, single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, but when we work our single crochets, we are only working in the chain 1 spaces from the last row. So top of the popcorn, chain 1, single crochet in that chain 1 space, chain 1, skip that stitch, single crochet in the top of the popcorn, chain 1, single crochet in the chain 1 space, chain 1, single crochet in the popcorn, chain 1, etc. all the way across the row. And we're almost there. Skip that stitch. It should look very even. Okay, now we get to the end. This is where problems can often come in. Okay, single crochet in that chain 1 space, and also single crochet in the last stitch. Okay, let's turn, and this is what you should have. Now if you find that the fabric is kind of pulled in and is curving in because it's pulled, it's probably because you skipped a stitch or two, or perhaps omitted a chain 1 space in between the single crochets. Now let's go to row 3 of the popcorn stitch. We're going to chain 1, we're going to single crochet in that first stitch. Now we're going to chain 1, skip the next stitch, and we're going to single crochet in that next chain 1 space, chain 1, and in the next chain 1 space, which should be between 2 popcorns, we're going to work another popcorn, because this is what helps these popcorns to alternate. Okay, so it's 3, 4 single crochets, pull up a loop, and then we pull that loop through, chain 1, skip this stitch, and then single crochet in the next chain 1 space, chain 1. And once you get to this point, you should know that you're going to be crocheting a popcorn in between the popcorns of the previous row. So it is somewhat, well, definitely a visual stitch, and definitely pay attention to that. If something doesn't quite look right, you probably need to stop and take another look and see what's going on. Okay, chain 1, we're going to skip this stitch, single crochet in that next chain 1 space, chain 1, and then a popcorn here. I'm going to speed this up just a little bit because you've seen me work the popcorns a few times. Okay, skip the next stitch, single crochet, chain 1, and you know this is going to be a popcorn. So this is pretty much the gist of the stitch, but I'm going to work a couple more rows for you just to demonstrate how these rows begin and end at the beginning and ending of each row, because that's the main difference as you crochet this stitch, is how the stitch ends and begins each row. That will be slightly different. Okay, and skip the next stitch. Okay, here we go, single crochet, chain 1, and in the next stitch there are 2 options actually. at this point. Depending on the design, you need to follow the written pattern because the pattern will vary depending on how they're using the popcorn stitch. Okay, you have the option of crocheting a popcorn here and then a single crochet in the last stitch. But just for this demonstration, I'm going to just make it a single crochet and then a single crochet. Okay, so I hope that was clear. I could, let me just back this up and I'll do it both ways. That's without a popcorn at the ending. And let's go ahead and show you what it would look like with a popcorn there, which is, entirely possible to do. Okay, if I make a popcorn here, chain one, and then just single crochet in that last stitch. Okay, chain one. Now we're ready to begin row number 4. We're going to single crochet in the first stitch, and we're going to single crochet in the top of that first popcorn, chain 1, single crochet in the chain 1 space, chain 1, single crochet in the top of the popcorn. It's very much like row 2, except the beginning. Like I said, the beginning and the ending of the row is going to be just slightly different. So I'm just single crocheting in those chain 1 spaces and then make a chain 1 in between the single crochets, just like this. And you can work this stitch with pretty much any yarn. You can make really tiny popcorns with thin yarn, and you can make really big popcorns with thick yarn. So it really doesn't matter. Now, if you have yarn that's very satiny, silky, of course, it's just not going to work in the same way as a more bulky, normal kind of acrylic or a wool will. Alpaca works nice with this too. Okay, so now we're going to skip this stitch, single crochet in that last chain 1 space, and then single crochet in that last single crochet. It's turn. And this is what we have. Now we have worked all 4 rows. Let me just work one more row. This would be actually a repeat of row number 1, but I'm going to call it row number 5 because instead of working in a series of single crochets, I'm going to be working it in the popcorn fabric. So let me go ahead and work this. This will be row number 5. Single crochet in that first stitch, chain 1, and you can look at the way the popcorn is alternating. You know that it's time for another popcorn right here in this chain 1 space. So we're going to work a popcorn here, pull up that loop and pull it through, and skip the next stitch, single crochet in that chain 1 space, chain 1, popcorn in the next stitch, 3 and 4, pull it through, chain 1, single crochet in that next stitch, chain 1, etc., all the way across the row. And I just want to get through this last row with you, and then I will show you how this row, I'm going to go ahead and continue this all the way across the row, and I will show you how this row ends. At the end of the row, we're just going to work a single crochet in the chain 1 space, chain 1, and skip a stitch, and a single crochet in that last single crochet. And you would just continue to repeat rows 2 through 5 to repeat this pattern. Now, supposing that you would like to return back to your single crochet base, let me show you how to do that. Okay, the first thing you're going to need to do is change back to your smaller size hook. Remember, we upsized this to a larger hook, so I'm going to return to the smaller hook. We're going to chain 1, And you have to be very careful on this, and I would also watch the instructions of any given pattern you may be using, because it may vary from time to time depending on the design. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to skip the first stitch, and we're going to work 2 single crochets in that chain 1 space. Skip the next stitch, work 2 single crochets in the next stitch, which is the top of the popcorn, and 2 single crochets in the next chain 1 stitch. And we're going to do this all the way across the row, but we are going to do something slightly different at the end, and I'll show you. So we're just working 2 single crochets in each chain 1 space. If you forget to change the size of your hook, you're going to find that this row will be kind of bulging. It will be definitely wider than the previous popcorn rows, so you do want to make sure that you just make a note of that. You can write it down on your pattern, or I don't know, tie a ring or tie a strand or something around your finger just to remind you that you do need to change the hook size. Okay, so I've gone all the way across, and now we're going to just work 1 single crochet in that last chain 1 space and 1 in the single crochet. And let's verify our stitch count. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20 21 22 23 24 25 26. So our stitch count is the same as what we started with at the very beginning. So let's take one more look at our swatch. Well, I hope you enjoyed the stitch video. If you did, please hit the like, and if you haven't subscribed to the Bonnie Bay Crochet channel, please consider doing so. It's free, and I post helpful videos each week. God bless. Bye-bye.